Hello, everybody. Welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
We better wind ourselves back into FPL gear, James. We've got game week at the end of this week. We're going into game week 8, right? As we are.
Yeah, it's in single digits. You can normally remember the game week. Once we get beyond 10, you haven't got a clue, have you?
No. It's just another game week, but that's, take each game as it comes mentality. My manager taught me that. We're going to just take each game as it comes.
Is that like the West Ham mentality? Well, maybe we'll win the next one.
Well, yeah, that's how we decide whether or not the manager should keep his job. It's one game at a time, isn't it? Well, no, we've got a new manager in Nuno. We'll probably talk a little bit about Nuno on Tot and Ham this week because, interestingly, the club announced yesterday that he's not getting none of his backroom staff are joining. I think
Is that right?
all the guys that he promoted to help him are staying. I don't know. That's a Tottenham question, which is a Patreon pod, which we'll do later in the week. And we'll give you a bit of a flavour of Patreon before we do. But today we've got no games to review. I didn't watch any of the England stuff, so that you can save for another Patreon pod. No Premier League games to review. So we're going to be just looking at the first 7 game weeks and in your watching what we learned. But not just what we learned overall, what we learned about a few specific things, like DEFCONS is the topic of conversation, specifically by position and by club and what we can take away from that. We've got some conversation around point scorers, talismen as well, and overperforming, underperforming on XG. Is there something that we should be aware of? We'll look at some of the fixtures. For those thinking about a wildcard 12, 13, maybe what's the swing look like? What do we have up until then? And what do we have after then? Got a few questions. We've got plenty to cover off, James, considering it's international break.
Yeah, and some good questions next week. So we'll cover that off as well. Should we get in some data?
Yeah,
for
we
us,
should. We should. How was your weekend, man? I need to share. Nico came to Portugal and hung out with me.
What have you done to him? He's come back a wreck. He's shattered.
We had 4 days of a jiu-jitsu camp out here, morning, afternoon. The guy was filming, photographing, doing bit like he's a legend anyway. Advanced here might have seen us hanging out on the beach together, which we recorded a podcast whilst it was nice and sunny.
Don't blag that as a podcast, Suj, honestly.
We were just chilling on the beach. I was like, Nico, you need to prepare something. We need to talk somewhere. But yeah, he came back correct because we had a jiu-jitsu camp. It was so good. I got to give a shout out to Pedro Machado, right? He's a coach and he coaches my kids. And randomly, we were having a conversation about jiu-jitsu or whatever. And then out of nowhere, he messaged me on my phone and said, by the way, I forgot, I've got an important question. I need to ask you whether I should sell Eze or Bruno. I was like, where did that come from? Like, I didn't know he knew we talk about FPL. I didn't know he had an FPL team. And out of nowhere, when someone you think, oh, actually, you're now watching the content too, give him a shout out. Cool. Now, the problem is, James, he's doing really well. He's 750th in Portugal and like 200K. And has used no chips. And he's also a jiu-jitsu black belt. So I don't think I want to give him any advice because it can only go one of 2 ways, right? I hate giving advice to people that are doing well because it can only go one way.
So
you can only
what you're
mess it
saying
up.
is he's either going to continue to do better than you or he's going to kick the shit out of you.
Exactly that.
Right.
Like if I give him bad advice, I'll feel bad because he'll go down and also on the mats. Yeah. I mean, that's a given anyway that he'll maul me. But do you ever find that when people are doing well and they ask you for advice and you're like, well, you're doing well.
No, I never fear that any of them are going to kick the shit out of me. No.
Not to kick the shit out of you, but you do feel like if I give you advice and it's like it doesn't work out, like I'd rather just keep doing your own thing because clearly it's working if you're doing well without our advice. Like listen to the content and then make your own decisions. But I hate like you do it all the time on
never
Ask James
ever
anyway.
have thought, oh, if I give this person the right advice, they might beat me ever. Because most people listen to this will beat me anyway.
If it goes well, then I'm happy, right? I'm happy for him I want him to win the whole thing if he can. But I always worry, like you're doing well. I don't want to be the guy that gives you advice that takes that away from you. So don't listen, especially when they can.
What I get on my stream, someone will say, and it's like the subtle brag, isn't it? But I get this on my streams. I'm 10K in the world. Right. This is what you really wanted to get. You don't give a shit about the question. You just wanted to tell everyone you're 10K in the world. And I say to people, quite often, I say, if you're doing that well, you don't need my advice.
No,
Get on Harry
exactly.
or Andy's streams or Ross's or something like that. Get off here.
Yeah, do what you do. As we always say, play it your way. Listen to the points we make and make your own decisions.
Correct.
And the stuff we're going to discuss here is about sharing information that you may find useful when making your decisions. And some of this information is, data based, as you were going to say, James. We're starting with DEFCONs.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, going to have a look at a few things with DEFCONs. Going to have a look at some individuals. We've got some tables we're going to show up on YouTube for the benefit of our patrons. You can find all these tables on sheet 17 of my planner. It will stay up there for the duration of this week. This first table we're going to look at is DEFCONs achieved by position. And they're ordered by teams in terms of their total number of DEFCONs. I'm not going to read through all of this because it will be boring as hell. But we'll shout out a few bits to take away from it. So top for DEFCONs in terms of teams at the moment is Crystal Palace and Sunderland. With Palace, there's a nice spread of DEFCONs across all of their defenders have essentially picked up some. So even Munoz and Mitchell have picked up 2, Lacroix and Richards 4, Gay 3. So it's quite well spread. Sunderland is spread across the centre-backs and Granit Xhaka's doing quite well. Leeds, Wolves and Burnley all had 16 so far this season. Bournemouth 15, of which Marcus Senesi obviously accounts for 40% of that.
Wow.
6 so far this season. Fulham also 14. Joachim Anderson really good for that. On this particular table doesn't show up quite so well because he's had games at central centre back as well when they played a back three. James Tarkowski is 6 of Everton's 13 DEFCONs so far this season. Brentford are on 12. So now we're getting into the realms of teams that are getting under like 2 DEFCONs per player to team. Worst performers, Aston Villa only had 5 DEFCONs so far this season. 3 of them have been picked up by left-sided centre-backs, so Tyrone Mings twice, Pau Torres once. Tottenham and Manchester City only 7. I don't think the City number is a surprise, but I think people keep kind of linking Romero and Van der Ven to potentials of DEFCON. Caveat with that would be is Tottenham have had a kind fixture list. So with a tougher fixture list, there might be some more DEFCONs for the likes of Romero and Van der Ven, and Pedro Porro's had 2 so far this season. But less likelihood of clean sheets to go combined with that. Manchester United only 8, of which Matthias de Ligt actually has had 3 of those DEFCONs so far this season. Newcastle just 8, although half of those have been obtained by left-sided centre-backs. So it includes obviously Dan Burns had 3 of those. Arsenal just the 8, but Gabriel is 3 of those. Otherwise, they've had a mix. West Ham, Forest, Chelsea, Liverpool, Brighton, nothing particularly to write home about. I wanted to dive into this to see if there was anything we could find in terms of trends. Yep. So, like, I don't quite know how to make out yet. For example, like Senesi has had 6 DEFCONs, but Diakite's only had 2. Milicevic, who played 1 game, has only had 1 as well. I don't quite know the reasoning yet of why Senesi's getting double his partner. Is it because he's more aggressive in terms of stepping out? Is he more committed aerially? Is he winning more headers from corners, etc.? I've not dived that far into the data as yet, which maybe makes the next table a little bit more interesting because this one shows DEFCONS achieved against certain teams. So Villa actually sit top bottom for most DEFCONS achieved with only 5, and yet they're the team that's had the most DEFCONS achieved against them with 19. So I look at that, for example, and think of Rodgers quite often plays on the left, and I think Ollie Watkins likes to run into that channel as well. Mm-hmm. Is there something there in terms of 4 right backs and 5 right-sided centre-backs have picked up DEFCON in games against Aston Villa so far this season? So
just they have a left-sided bias when they're attacking, Aston Villa do.
A little bit. I think they go more direct into that zone more than the right-hand side. But also, like, you need a strong caveat with something like that with, say, Villa, because Villa actually, despite their performances so far this season, have arguably had probably them and Sunderland and maybe Tottenham, the best opening 7 fixtures.
Okay.
So, like, is Villa's DEFCON number high because they've played weaker teams? As in the
The
DEFCONs
teams
achieved
against.
against Villa,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, it could well be.
So, like,
Fixtures definitely will have an impact.
17 DEFCONs have been achieved against Liverpool. I don't think that's too much of a surprise. The most of which of that, if we exclude the others, are obviously that's midfield players essentially. I've just clubbed them all together. Four left-sided centre backs have picked up DEFCON against Liverpool. He's at going into Salah's zone,
So that's definitely
but then
Salah's channel.
only two left backs so far this season have achieved DEFCON
He does like
against
to come
Liverpool.
inside though. Does Salah.
Five left-sided centre backs picked up DEFCON against Everton.
And Dyer's zone on the right. He's
It
been
is
playing
a
mostly
little
on the
bit, but
right.
he's probably more the direct stuff into Beto or Barry when he's played. I mean the data sample is obviously really small. I've kind of gone on a hunt to try and find things and patterns, and I don't find too much. Other than it's probably more a takeaway at this stage in terms of who's achieving DEFCONs in terms of teams and individuals and who are they being achieved against. So maybe more one is perhaps more of interest is the bottom of this table. So only five DEFCONs been achieved against Leeds. So, sorry, against Burnley. So Leeds play Burnley this weekend, and I know there'll be people wanting a bench boost, maybe with the likes of Rodon, perhaps Goodmanson. What's your likelihood of picking up a DEFCON away to Burnley? Well, on this data, it would suggest low. But a deeper dive into that would tell you that two of those five DEFCONs achieved against Burnley were by Sunderland players.
Right.
So maybe there is still something there. Only six DEFCONs been picked up against West Ham. But then we just saw in game week 7, Gabriel being one of those players, which would maybe be a little bit of a surprise.
I would add just.
And West Ham actually will probably be, well, I was going to say they'll probably be more direct. They can't not be more direct under Nuno versus Potter, just in sense of Potter's ball is, the attempt of it is to be controlling and not be direct. That said, I take it you've seen the Fulkrug update.
I have not, James.
Injured again.
Yeah, no surprise. I mean, as soon as you mentioned his name, I'm like, all right.
The Sunderland one's interesting. Only 7 DEFCONs achieved against them. And Sunderland have had quite a kind fixture list. So I think that will continue. Only 7 DEFCONs achieved against Manchester City. Whereas if you look at the opposite end of this table, most of the top teams are towards the top of that, right? So Liverpool, 17 DEFCONs achieved against them. 15 have been achieved against Newcastle and Manchester United. 14 against Arsenal. 14 against Bournemouth. 13 against Tottenham. 13 against Palace. And Everton are in top half at the moment. We've had 17 against them as well. So the real top ones there, it does stand to reason that you're going to pick up more DEFCONs against a lot of the better sides. Manchester City is an anomaly in that, in terms of they don't really cross the ball.
It's possession. Yeah, so I'm looking. I've just had a cheeky look at the league table in terms of West Ham, Burnley, Sunderland, Forest are basically the lowest goal scorers in the league. Villa have been rubbish as well. But I think with those guys, it's because we haven't created enough chances or attacked enough, or the teams haven't needed to defend enough to get the DEFCONs. Whereas Man City's a slightly different situation. There's been no DEFCONs because they've just kept the ball and kept the ball and kept the ball. I wouldn't surprise me if that's a possession-based thing. Surprised it's Chelsea down there, but maybe they fall into the same bracket as Man City.
I think it is.
They've scored 13 goals this season already. I mean, 5 of them against West Ham. So, yeah.
Maresca ball is kind of more in keeping with Pep, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
And also possibly with Liam Delap's injury, on occasion where they maybe would have wanted to go direct more, they haven't. João Pedro wants to come towards the ball, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So I think that explains that away. Do you take have from those two tables? Do you have any big takeaways?
Well, we've talked about defense against. Yeah, I think that's that. The actually DEFCONS against is more interesting than DEFCONS gained. Interestingly, because I think it's like, should I play? You get these dilemmas where should I play this player rather than this player? Because would I think the upside of a guaranteed DEFCON is better than a potential clean sheet when we think about DEFCONs are possibly more common or easier to get? It's the 2 points versus the 4, or even 3 points for an attacking assist or something like that. Definitely looking at the teams that are not giving away a lot of DEFCONs would make me think twice about gambling that over a clean sheet potential or attacking return
So, guys,
potential.
so this is the sort of debate where I think we can start now having this conversation. So, my question to you would be this week, right? Do you play, for example, Romero at home to Villa
Yeah.
or Rodon away to Burnley?
And now Burnley, I'd play Romero. I'd play Romero in this situation. I think it helps that he's your highest. He's got your most DEFCONs. I think he's
He's
one
only
of
got
your.
two.
Yeah,
But point being is,
I'm looking, but
you've had
the
five Defcons from right-sided centre backs against Aston Villa this season, whereas you've
yeah,
had none
nothing
from
leads
right-sided
against
centre backs
Burnley.
against Burnley.
Yeah,
Does that factor in or not?
yeah, it does factor in definitely. I'm just thinking Leeds' front line has changed. So now that their front line is getting better, does that mean that they will force Burnley into doing more defending, or will it be a similar game to the one that Burnley had against Sunderland? I'm not sure. And you did say that Burnley's the DEFCONs given away were against Sunderland, right?
Yeah, it's game week two. It's also worth saying. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're going to layer in all these things, what's interesting about everything needs context, right? So I can say to you, two Sunderland players picked up DEFCON against Burnley. Right, Burnley played the back four in the opening in that particular fixture, whereas pretty much since the last international break, they basically played 5-4-1 in every game.
I'd play
Do they go back to a back four?
I'd play Romero, I think, in that situation. Let me give you another one, if I may, because
Okay,
it's a real life example. Go on.
go on,
It's a real life example in my team right
go on. Em.
now. Alderete,
Yeah,
Wolves at home, is in my team. Porro is on my bench. Right side centre back, right centre back. Right back against Villa 4. DEFCONs. Wolves are middling here, where the centre backs against Wolves 3 and 3, left sided and right sided. And Alderetti's been pretty consistent with his picking up of DEFCONs, right?
yeah. I mean,
Horrible,
also,
isn't it?
but also, as said with Villa, so Tottenham playing Villa this way, and four right backs picked up DEFCON against
Yeah,
Villa
this
as
is what I'm
well.
looking at. So I'm kind of like, well, Porro might be actually pretty good for a DEFCON. Do I think that? Do I think that Spurs are more likely to keep an keep a clean sheet, sorry, than Alderete against
But
Wolves at
you could
home?
also say again, context.
Maybe.
Have Villa had a fixture this season against like another expected top eight opponent? The answer's like no, other than arguably like Palace at home, maybe Everton away. So
Yeah.
in theory, if we'd have looked at the start of the season, we'd have possibly said on paper, Villa's toughest game in the opening eight is Tottenham away.
Yep.
So does
So
that play into this or not?
a little, maybe. I think the DEFCON potential between Alderete and Porro, based on what I'm looking at in terms of data, is actually pretty similar. If we're going by Villa's historic, which then means I'm looking at attacking returns versus clean sheets as my decision making. Interesting to look at it like that.
I would play Porro.
Yeah, I've swapped them out while I've got my team in front of me. I think the based on those stats and 4 right backs getting DEFCONs against Aston Villa, I'm thinking Porro might be good
But I
for it.
think I'd play Alderete over Romero. I don't know if that's right. No, I'm being serious. I don't know if that like it
Yeah,
is really close.
yeah, yeah.
What I normally say to you is like which one is like the most likely to haul? Which one's the most likely to
Hmm.
go? Reality is the answer to that is with the way it is at the moment, it probably is Alderete.
Okay.
Aldereti's if you said to me now one in three players get 17 points this weekend, who do you think it'd be? I'm like, it's probably going to be Alderete.
Yeah, I don't think Porro is too far behind. You're talking about a clean sheet, an assist, and a DEFCON and max bonus. Porro is there. Like DEFCON potential there, clean sheet potential is there, attacking potential is always there. I think between the two of them, sure. I don't see Sunderland keeping a clean sheet, if I'm honest with you, against Wolves at home. Even though they've been pretty good for it, I don't see that. So I think I'd end up going Porro. You're right.
By the way, I did for advanced tier patrons a couple of weeks ago after game week 6, a look at if there was any correlation in terms of the amount of crosses versus like DEFCONs being achieved by opponents. Doesn't really show up.
Okay.
There's more a correlation to how direct teams are playing.
Yeah.
More on that a little bit in a sec. Let's have a look at this one. And so this next table shows you best DEFCON performers by team. So it's broken down into three sections. So the most actual DEFCON bonus points achieved per team down the left hand side, and then is the total amount of DEFCON contributions for defenders, and then I've also listed best midfielders for each team as well. So we've got three players have hit DEFCON 6 times out of 7. There's no 100%ers now, but it's Senesi, Anderson, and Tarkovsky. There's only one other player who's hit DEFCON 5 times this season. That is Josh Cullen of Burnley.
Yep.
And interestingly, since Luis Florentino's come into the team, since Agochukwu got sent off against Liverpool in game week 4, both Cullen and Florentino have hit DEFCON every game since. Now, again, context. Burnley have had a rough set of fixtures. Does this calm down for them when they might see a little bit more of the ball in some of these forthcoming games, such as they play Leeds this week and then Wolves in game week 9? This will be the test. Like if Cullen and Florentino both hit DEFCON against Leeds and Wolves over the next 2, then you're potentially looking at those two players are going to be like a 4 in 5 or 5 in 6.
4-point base most often. Yeah.
And that makes them really appealing. I mean, you're highly unlikely to end up with a Burnley treble up, for example.
No, exactly. Yeah. And there's not, they're the only midfielders, right, on the list that have, well, he's the only midfielder on the list that's got 5 or more so far. Or Caicedo? No, Caicedo's only got 4.
It's
so
right.
Yeah, Cullen's the only one with 5 or more who's not a defender.
Teams that have had their top DEFCON performer as a midfielder. So Granit Xhaka is joint with Alderete and Michele in terms of they've all picked up 4 each. Ethan Ampadu is actually the Leeds midfielder that's hit it 3 times. Stack and Longstaff for both twice, although Stack has had the most contributions overall. But Ampadu also missed a few games. If you remember, he got injured in game week 1 against Everton.
Yep.
Andre and João Gomez are joint with Agbadu in terms of 3 DEFCONs achieved. And I think probably one of those Wolves midfielders will go on to be the best rather than Agbadu, who's very much keeping his Wolves place by a piece of string at the moment. Cullen has said for Burnley, Caicedo, most DEFCONs for Chelsea so far, achieved 4 times. Elliot Anderson 3 times for Nottingham Forest. The rest are obviously made up, but defenders bar Manchester City, you've got 7 players have hit DEFCON once. No Man City players hit DEFCON twice yet this season. Nico Gonzalez is actually the midfield player who's achieved the most DEFCONs overall in terms of the total DEFCONs. How do we separate this conversation?
This is interesting because every team that you've mentioned there, so we're talking Leeds, Wolves, Burnley, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest. Let's go all the way down to there. If I said to you that on the DEFCONs achieved by position, for all of those, other has more DEFCONs than all the defenders combined. So
on all of them, that's
Leeds,
interesting.
The defenders is 2-2-2-1. So that's 7 defenders, 9 other. For Wolves, you've got 2-3-2. So that's 5, 7, 8. And the other is 8. For Burnley, 7 defenders, 9 is other. For Chelsea, you've got 5 defenders, 5 is other. For Forest, you've got 5 defenders, 5 is other. So the other players, i.e. midfielders, let's just say it's midfielders, have got as many DEFCONs as all of the defenders combined. I was just looking to see, is there something to do with like these defensive midfielders breaking up attacks, being the busybodies that are getting involved and running around and ball recoveries and all this kind of thing? Because there's a correlation between when the midfielders are high, the defenders are low here.
All of these players are good ball winning midfielders. I mean, Caicedo is an absolute monster, isn't he? Anderson's fitness levels phenomenal. João Gomez and Andre at Wolves I speak about a lot. Cullen actually I think is the really surprising one because I think it was always labelled to me as very much, it kind of ticks the team over in terms of his ball playing ability. But he's obviously doing really well under this metric. And obviously Florentino, remember again, he's made his debut in game week 5. He's on 3. So actually, he's kind of the 100%er in the game at the moment, basically. Best for each, I'll just run through these. So Lacroix and Richards, 4 each for Crystal Palace. I'll just run through the defenders we haven't mentioned. Collins and Vandenberg, 3 each for Brentford. They've really dried up over the last few games, Brentford. Jan Paul van Heck is the most for Brighton, has had 3 so far this season. Interestingly, 4 times Brighton's right back has picked up DEFCON this season. But 2 of those games are Mats Vifa at the start of the season, who's a midfield player, who's a kind of a ball-winning midfield player who has been playing in that position on occasion. Virgil van Dijk has 4 for Liverpool. Mavropanos 3 for West Ham's interesting, Suj.
Especially because you keep trying to get Kilman to be the challenge to
Well,
DF.
Mavropanos hasn't played every game, whereas Kilman has, right?
Yeah, it's true. And yet Mavropanos has got more DEFCONs.
Gabriel 3, Burn 3, Delit 3, Paul and Romero 2, Tyrone Mings 2. Villa's injured now, we think, for a little while as well. I've highlighted best defenders in terms of those who've achieved over 70 DEFCONs so far this season. So that's averaging more than your threshold of 10 per game. So
Yep.
Chris Richards at Crystal Palace, still really cheap. It feels like everybody's buying Gay and Lacroix, and it's understandable. But Richards is going a little bit under the radar, I think. Senesi, 88. Joachim Anderson, 81. James Tarkowski, 79. Those 3 names don't surprise. Virgil van Dijk, 79, I think, is the big surprise. Liverpool, I think, are highest in the league for clearances this season. Again, Liverpool have had a tough schedule of fixtures, but that number is pretty surprising how big it is.
Well,
and even
not if you look with your eyes, right? If you look with your eyes,
Gabriel 66, it's just behind 70.
Yeah, it's not too far. Liverpool haven't been defensively as they've been giving up a lot of chances in their style of play, right? I wouldn't go so far as to say Liverpool is the Liverpool that defensively solid that we've seen previously. So maybe less of a surprise with Van Dijk. But he's that kind of player that doesn't do much, right? When he needs it, he turns it on and gets that last ditch tackle or what have you. So when we start talking about clearances here, that's where I think this Van Dijk conversation is going to get interesting.
You could definitely put a wildcard team together where your back 5 was Richards, Senesi, Anderson, Tarkowski, Van Dijk.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the way to play the game now? Or do you maybe substitute one of them for Gabriel?
Yeah, I would substitute one for Gabriel, of course. It'd be Anderson most likely.
But with these guys particularly, and I think in fairness, we've got Richards top there, but I think you can club probably Gay and Lacroix into this conversation as well. Do you just play them every week? Is that what this is now?
Yeah, possibly.
When they're that strong, when they're hitting over the average per week, you got to take the rough with the smooth?
Yep.
A little bit like we say about goalkeeper returns being random. If you rotate your goalkeepers, at some point you're going to get that decision wrong, aren't you? This is almost the same, isn't it?
Yep.
I still feel though, I think particularly with Anderson, I think Fulham have kept, I don't know the exact number, Fulham kept a clean sheet this season. I want to say no.
Couldn't tell you, but I will
Leeds.
have a look.
One against Leeds, I think, isn't it? I think that's right.
Gonna have a look.
I think they've kept 6 clean sheets since the beginning of last season, Fulham.
They have kept 1 clean sheet this season.
Yeah,
James.
I'm pretty sure they only had 5 last season. So they've kept 6 clean sheets since the start of the season. Do you want to play Anderson every week?
He has the highest DEFCON average per 90 in the game. Do you want to play Anderson every week? No, actually, Senesi's higher, sorry. Second highest average DEFCON per 90. Do you want to play him every week? Do you know, this is the debate that people are having. Attacking defenders dead. What's the value of clean sheet points versus consistency of? Yeah.
Are you happy to play the player that's like 3.5 to 4 points every week?
Depends on the team. Because I look at Arsenal, James, right? There's 5. Arsenal have had 5 DEFCONs from defenders this season so far across all 7 games. 5. So you're
3
talking
from Gabriel.
3 from Gabriel. So you're talking about 7 games, 4 defenders. That's what, 28? 28 matches, 5 DEFCONs between all of them. Their 3 highest scoring FPL players this season are Timber, Gabriel, and Calafiori.
Yeah, and they've all got loads more than Anderson, by the way.
who have not a DEFCON between them if you think of it from that point of view.
For
Clean
context,
sheets, attacking returns, and
they
stuff.
all cost
They've all
about $1 million
scored.
more than Anderson, right?
Yeah. They've all scored this season. They've all got they've all scored, and Timber's picked up assists. I don't know if Calafiori has, maybe he has. They've obviously the clean sheet potential there. So when picking Arsenal defenders, for example, I don't even look at DEFCONs. I don't even look at DEFCONs. When I'm looking at Crystal Palace defenders, I'm not really. The DEFCONs are nice, but I'm also doubling up and thinking the clean sheets are there for them as well because they do so well with that. Beyond that, Liverpool is clean sheets because they used to keep them. I don't know why. I'm still thinking that they might. Beyond that, it is DEFCONs. There's only 2 or 3 teams / players where you're valuing other benefits. You might look at a Diouf with his 4 assists this season, but no clean sheets and not a DEFCON in sight. So it's only a handful of teams where the additional stuff is interesting. Beyond that, I think you are looking DEFCONs, James.
Okay, let me sum up a few bits on this, and then I want to show you a different table, which I think is really interesting on clearances. So I think in terms of Palace, like generally we had this conversation with Rory on COTC prior to the defeat at Everton. All 5 of Palace's defenders are legit considerations. They all are. Those 5 players got priced so well. Even the fact that Richards is now the cheapest doesn't feel like people are going there. And I get it because I do think like over the Christmas period, he may get left out for a game, whereas I don't think Lacroix or Gay does. So that gets factored in as well. For Sunderland, I think Alderete or Michele, you could take your choice. And the fact Alderete is 4.1 now might even make a kind of a dent in that for some people. Xhaka is perfectly reasonable to consider. He should actually be in bold there as well, shouldn't he, on 89. It's outstanding performance from him. And the thing with Xhaka as well, obviously their fixture list has been quite kind. His DEFCONs per game might even go up a little bit with some more difficult opponents coming up. That's a possibility. For Leeds, I think all of Ampadu, Stack and Longstaff are kind of reasonable pickups, but they look like they're probably going to share those DEFCON returns a little bit. For Wolves, I think it's probably an avoid. I think the likes of Xhaka are better than João Gomez or Andre. I think Agbadu's place is under threat. For Burnley, I think Cullen and Florentino are really interesting and also kind of in competition with Jadon Anthony, as we'll show you in a sec. Bournemouth, Senesi and Tyler Adams. The problem with Tyler Adams now, though, is Tyler Adams has been really good. 82 DEFCONs in total across all the games this season for him. He's just below the 12 per game threshold of a total of 84. The problem with him is there's so many teams sitting there with Senesi and Semenyo. If Adams was like your DEFCON choice of player in midfield, if Evan Nilsson like suddenly goes off or something, you're blocked, aren't you?
Yeah.
So probably not Adams. Joachim Anderson is by far and away the only player to consider from Fulham from a DEFCON perspective. I'm interested to see what happens with James Tarkowski once Jared Branthwaite comes back in the team, because I think he might provide good value against him. And Sean actually felt, when we did that COTC with Rory prior to their game with Palace, Sean felt that actually probably wasn't quite worth the money. And actually, when you look at that, he's having similar numbers to Anderson, Senesi are cheaper. I don't think there's anything to suggest Everton will definitively keep more clean sheets than Bournemouth, is there? And actually, Senesi had 9 attacking returns last season, whereas Tarkowski, I think, only had 2.
Well, that was 2 seasons ago, wasn't it, with Senesi?
No, I think it's last season. I think
was
it's
it last
9
season?
Attacking returns. Yeah,
I thought he didn't play.
Someone
so
pointed
much.
it out to me on Twitter the other week.
I think.
I was like, what?
Yeah,
you're right.
I think that was because last season they had Housen and what's the fellow that went to
Zabani.
PSG? Zabani played the majority of the games, but let's have a look here.
I know it's right, boss.
Marcos Senesi. No, he had 0 attacking returns last season.
No, leave off.
9 attacking returns the season before.
Oh, was it the season before?
23-24. Because he only started 13 games because Zabani and Housen.
Sorry,
Zabani and Housen were the centre backs. It was the season before where he played.
When he was playing regularly, yes. Before Housen kind of nicked his place, you're quite right.
Correct.
James Garner, I think, for Everton as well.
Yep.
He's also 82. It's the same number of Tyler Adams, doing really well. And intriguingly, with Garner, he's obviously had games at left back as well as in midfield. Yarmouk, he's quietly performing okay at Brentford. I think that wants monitoring. There are better choices at the moment. Brighton, I think, is an avoid for DEFCONS. Don't bother. Virgil van Dijk is so intriguing. I'm not going to cover that anymore now because I think I'm going to show you something really interesting in a second. Szoboszlai's number is really high. Now, Szoboszlai will
Right.
contribute to the odd attacking return, but I don't know how much of this is a consequence of him having them games at right back as well.
I think a lot.
Casado, absolute monster.
Beast. Yeah, what a guy.
96 across the 7 games. I said to you, when he only got 7 in the game against West Ham in game week 2, I told you that would be his lowest total in any game this season.
Yep.
Absolute machine. There's more on Casado and his goal scoring potential coming up in a sec. Elliot Anderson, great as well. 89 is strong. That's joint second highest behind Casado. So I know people have been unhappy with him. I think you've been unlucky to only have 3 DEFCONs so far.
He's been close a number of times, like just one off. Yeah, he's a good pick actually. I still stand by it.
I think Kilman and Mavropanos are worth monitoring now Nuno's in charge.
Agreed.
I think with Mavropanos, there is a little bit of a threat from Todibo as well. We're not quite sure what Nuno makes of him at this moment.
Correct.
So I do still think if you had to go now, Kilman is the safer one to go to. Suj will tell you to go for Diouf anyway, won't you, Suj?
No,
No?
I'll tell you neither and wait and see. I think if you own, you don't move. But if
But
you
people on
don't,
Wildcard want to go West Ham now, maybe, because the fixtures, right?
then yeah, if you're forcing it and you want one now, I'd say Diouf. But if you can hold off, then I would wait and see how it plays out. But I can understand with Brentford Leeds next up that people and Burnley thereafter, but people want it. I'd go Diouf then in that case.
Thoughts on Paquetá? So 65 DEFCONs across the 7
65.
games. Decent number.
I think it's definitely a consideration. I like Paqueta because of the all-round capability, right? He assists, he scores goals or takes penalties, and he's a combative tackler. So he will pick up a DEFCON when you don't expect it, particularly in some of the harder games when he does the pressing. So yeah, I like him because of the all-round ability to get points. If you've got a slot for that price, I wouldn't be looking to move it on or anything. I think it'd be a good get.
Gabriel doing really well. Zubimendi ticking over
Mm,
okay, but not a DEFCON consideration. I don't think Burns' number is not high enough to make you want to consider him for DEFCON purposes. He's hit it 3 times, but he's only had 58 overall across the games. I don't think that's not brilliant. And he may have a spell at left back as well. So if you're picking him, I think he's rather more just for general defensive returns. Matthias de Ligt is doing okay. He's the most for United defenders. I wouldn't go there for that reason, but wants monitoring, I think. Bruno Fernandes, 74 DEFCONs. Like it's high, isn't it?
it's a lot, man. It's so close as well. I feel really like I want him to keep doing well. I don't see myself moving off him to go to Saka because that would be the go-to place for me right now. Yeah, he's been so close. He's such a tempter with. I mean, yeah, had he not missed 2 penalties and stuff right now? But I think what is he picked it up twice, 2 in 7
Yeah.
with 74 DEFCONs, but only twice it's got over the 12.
Yeah, like Anderson, it's just been short a few
Mm,
times, right?
yeah, tough.
Tottenham players forget for DEFCON, I think. Purely on the basis what we've seen from these good fixtures suggests there's not enough there. Like Romero's the most 55. Bentancur and Paulini are both 54. But actually Bentancur's better per minute on that. Not worth considering. You may find that their DEFCONs are a little bit better in forthcoming fixtures. Now the fixtures are getting harder. You know what the opposite consequence of that is. And Aston Villa have got to be the worst team in this league for wanting DEFCONs.
Yeah, just ignore.
So Matty Cash is the most of the defenders, 41. That's the lowest of best defender from any team. And John McGinn is on 42. I don't think every other team has got a midfielder has got more than that. Next lowest, Adam Wharton, Crystal Palace, 43.
Yep.
So Aston Villa for DEFCONs look like the worst in the league. But again, the consequence, they've had easier fixtures. That may change with a bit of run. I want to show you this, Suj. This is really interesting. What I did for a piece on what the numbers say for our patrons a couple of weeks ago, looking at direct balls being played in the league. I think most of us can see on our eye that there's more direct football being played. You know, we're seeing more long throws and stuff like that.
Just lobbing it into the box, a lot of corners. Yeah.
And then off the back of that, what I wanted to do was look at individual players and the amount of clearances that they're completing per game, and a theory that it was probably quite a bit up on last season. So what I've done is I've taken, I think, probably the best DEFCON player from each team in the league and compared their data for this season and last season. And these are all defensive players. I'm not looking at midfielders. We're just looking at the centre backs here. What I've done is I've not compared for Burnley, Sunderland, Leeds, waste of time, Championship, Premier League. So I've added a few additional players in. So I've added I've added Richards, Lacroix and Gay all to this table. So all three Palace centre backs. And I added Van der Ven on top of Romero because I know Van der Ven's sitting in a lot of teams as well at the moment. And the reasons looking at clearances specifically, I think we'd all kind of identified going into pre-season that clearances were going to give us a real good basis and understanding for which players that would pick up DEFCON, right? If you've got players that are doing really well for clearances per 90, they're going to show up really well on DEFCONs. And also it's more sustainable in terms of an understanding. Blocks are they're not as easy to understand how they can happen. You need someone to attempt a pass or a shot. So there's a real dependency on what an opponent is doing.
Yep.
Whereas you can just, with the ball at your feet, lump the ball long as a clearance, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is really intriguing. So this is looking at clearances per 90 for individuals last season versus this season. And the players I've looked at are Van Dijk, Senesi, Anderson, Tarkowski, Kilman, Chalobah, Lacroix, Richards, Collins, Van Heck, Agbadou, Byrne, Gabriel, De Ligt, Gay, Milenkovic, Diaz, Romero, Van der Ven, Konsa. And the order I've just read those players out are the order of which they have completed clearances per 90 this season. So Van Dijk is top. Most clearances per 90 minutes this season, 8.71 per game. And the intriguing bit on that is what that number is versus last season, 5.14 last season. So he's making over 3.5 clearances per game more. Again, It's 7 games. It's a small sample. Marcus Senesi.
It's a small sample until and when you carry on talking, James, and everybody is following this trend.
It's not everybody, but it's a lot. Yeah.
A large majority, let's say.
Marcus Senesi obviously wasn't a regular starter last year, 4.72 clearances per 90. He's basically not far off double that now, 8.26 per 90. I did, by the way, look at Dean Howson's return from last season because obviously he was playing in that left-sided centre back and he was about 7.5 clearances per game. It is very high. Senesi's this season is still higher than that.
Yep.
Anderson is 8 per 90 this season versus 6.55 last season. Tarkowski is 7 this season versus 6.55 last season. Kilman is 6.71 this season versus 5.7 last season. Chalobah, 6.42 this season versus 4.75 last season. Lacroix is up. Richards is up. Van Heck, Agbadou, Byrne, Gabriel significantly, by the way.
Yeah.
5.71 versus 5.32. The caveats with Gabriel and Van Dijk has to be that they have had difficult fixtures. De Ligt is up. Gay is up. And even Ruben Diaz so far this season, 5.08 per game versus 2.82 last season. The only players that aren't up on clearances per 90 this season versus last season are Nathan Collins, who's lost a very direct manager in Thomas Frank. So that might explain away some of the reasoning. Christian Romero and Mickey van der Ven are both down on last season's totals. They've now got that same direct manager, but consequence, what Tottenham had? Good fixtures.
Yep.
Ezri Konsa's number is down on last season. What a Villa had? Good fixtures.
Yep. And Milenkovic is the other one, I think. That's
Nika Milenkovic is the other one that is down. Forest were evolving their style even before Ange took over, right? Look at their possession stats from the first 3 games of the season. Also, consequently, They've had good fixtures. Now, Milenkovic's number actually would be a lot lower, bar the fact they were backs to the wall against Newcastle at the weekend, and Milenkovic actually picked up DEFCON in that particular game. So
The ones that are down though, James, if you look at it as a percentage or that's
they're not down by
point
much.
2, point 1. The ones that are up by a lot.
Yeah.
The ones that are down are not down by much. You're talking margin of error type stuff there. Maybe Van der Ven is the biggest maybe drop, maybe Conte there as well. But you're talking.
But the Tottenham ones particularly, the
Yep.
Tottenham ones will go back up with
when I
these
look
more
at,
difficult fixtures.
Yeah, take the top 4 there. Van Dijk, Senesi, Anderson, Tarkowski, who are 7 clearances and above per 90. Like for me, I'm thinking, shit, they only need 3 other DEFCONs. You only need 3 tackles.
Interception.
Two tackles
tackle,
and an
block.
interception. You only need 3 and you're in. You're like, wow, okay.
Now, you will have
interesting.
anomalies here. This is, again,
Of
a small
course.
sample. It's 7 games. Van Dijk hit like 20 DEFCONs against Bournemouth in game 1, right? Like that's an over-the-top number that has an influence on this. For sure.
Chalobah.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this and you're looking at Chelsea's fixture.
I want to see how many games he started this season.
It's 5 or 6, I think. It might be every game
Chalobah-
bar the game suspended.
6 starts. Yeah,
no,
he started.
he came
6
on
starts.
against Manchester United, didn't he? I want to say. Because of the red card so early in the game.
he played
83 odd
Chalobah.
minutes.
90, it says here, against
Or
Manchester
did he play
United.
90?
He started.
Who did that? They brought
He's-
someone on. Maybe it was
He
Adebayo,
started every game other than Liverpool this season so far.
which he was suspended for.
Correct.
So yeah, Chalobah stood out. Max Kilman, that goes back to conversations we had about him in pre-season. I said to you, I tell you, I think Kilman might be pretty good for this.
Chalobah, he got 9 against Crystal Palace as well, so he was 1 away from 4 from DEFCON there. So then he would have had 4 in 6. The other game there, West Ham, like they didn't have to do anything that second half, so no surprise there. And the defeat away at Brighton, it was at home at Brighton, sorry, where he only played 52 minutes and obviously got sent off. In that 52 minutes, James, how many DEFCONs? Only 2. Defensive contribution, only 1. Is that right? It says 1 CBI.
Could be, particularly against Brighton, yeah.
They're really ceding possession, aren't they, at the moment? So, yeah, those are the only 2. The others he's been at it. So I hadn't ever considered Chalobah as a way into the Chelsea defence, but at 5.1 with those stats, maybe and especially the fact that he's playing every game and they've got all these injuries, he's gonna play for the foreseeable. He might be a quite easy way in. Would you pick Chalobah over Cucurella, considering the price difference right now, for example?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
He's got more FPL points than Cucurella right now.
I think as well, Chalobah is a legit threat from set plays anyway. So for me, if I invest in Chelsea, because I'm highly likely wildcard in 13, it's a very short-term investment as well. So like, is Cucurella worth $1 million more over 5 game weeks if I went and bought this week? I'd say probably not.
Yeah.
But that could obviously switch either way. I'd say takeaways from this are, in terms of the individuals, the 3, let's say, kind of mid-range. So Senesi, Anderson, Tarkowski, I'm talking about the type of teams they're playing for. They're all going to be great for DEFCONs. They're going to be great. I do think, as Sean said on COTC a couple of weeks ago, I do think there is a question mark on Tarkowski in terms of whether he's worth that price versus the other guys. And I do think we want to monitor if Diakite can maybe now, because Senesi's up to 5, if Diakite maybe can keep up with that in forthcoming weeks. There isn't an alternative to Anderson at Fulham, which is interesting. This makes me not want to sell Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah, I had no intention of selling him anyway. I probably I'm quite a faithful FPL manager, and I believe in teams, and I think Liverpool's defensive numbers will actually get a bit better from a clean sheet point of view. Maybe that won't help us DEFCONs, but I'm quite hopeful that will get better. So yeah, I'm with you. Van Dijk stays.
This makes me very interested in Chalobah. I think probably long term, we probably all want something Crystal Palace in our team. It's probably a good idea. And they'll probably flip-flop between who's going to be the best for DEFCONs regularly. I'm pleased that Gabriel's sitting in there. I think his numbers are like competitive there. and they should be the most in the league for clean sheets.
So Van Dijk, Senesi, Chalobah, Gabriel, and pick a Palace.
One of the reasons
Perfect
I really
defense.
wanted to... What's that, sorry?
Van Dijk, Senesi, Chalobah, Gabriel, +1 Palace.
That's no Anderson then, or no Tarkovsky. So here's the thing. There's kind of the point I want to make on this. We're almost clubbing this here and going 10 players, 12 players.
Yep.
Defenders. As said, unless you've got a fullback, I think that's like a legitimate goal scoring, not goal creating, goal scoring threat, like Munoz is the best example. The fullbacks and stuff are a waste of time with the way this game is at the moment. The amount of direct football being played is having an impact on the amount of clearances being made. I think DEFCONs are being achieved more regularly than what people who maybe set the limits were hoping. And I don't think it's anybody's fault.
No, you can't see the evolution, right, of the game.
That the game was going to get this much more direct. And we're not talking about one or two teams here. We are talking about, these numbers show us the majority of teams in this league, and I showed this on the piece I did a couple of weeks ago, that nearly all the teams in the league are playing more direct football in terms of the amount of 40+ yard passes they're making, for example. I think if they go back and have their time again, I think that the idea and the introduction of DEFCON is fine, but it has limited the player base quite significantly. It's no one's fault. I think if they could go back again, they would have made the threshold higher and made it like 12 for defenders.
Yep. James, let's talk a little bit about talismen. Now, carrying the thread of the conversation, we're going to get to some questions that we've had in on X in a bit. A lot of those questions, it included the word template, because people are thinking about the template. Now, we've had a conversation around defensive template here with your DEFCONs and who would be the ideal back five, and maybe that's the direction of travel. Talismen always come into the template quite a lot as well, because your Haalands of the world and whatever are so easy to set and forget. So I'm interested in the talismen at these clubs, midfield and forwards, and the points scored by them. Is there a template forming? Can we see a template from these talismen across midfield and forward positions?
I think there's way too many question marks on way too many potential talisman at the moment. So this table shows you top 3 points.
I would say, though, by the same token, there's a few that just stand out very clearly.
Yeah.
I think Semenyo, Haaland, Semenyo as well, and Bowen.
Well, I've only highlighted 4. So on this table, all this table has got is the top 3 point scorers from all 20 teams. And the order they're listed in, by the way, is the combined score of those 3 players, if you're wondering about the order. The only 4 players I've put in bold is Semenyo, clear at Bournemouth, Haaland, clear at City, Bowen, clear at West Ham, and I put in bold Thiago at Brentford.
You don't believe Bruno Fernandes, who is the highest point scorer at Man United, is talisman?
I do not think that is clear with Sesko, Bumo, Cunha all there.
Okay.
When we're talking talisman here, we're talking about the players essentially going to get us the most points at the end of the season, right? Or per game, whatever.
Sure.
I don't think we can. I don't think there's too many question marks across the board. Do we think Timber, Gabriel, or Calafiori will be Arsenal's top scoring player at the end of the season?
Unsure.
Ultimately, it depends probably on Saka and Gyökeres, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do we think when the season's finished that Caicedo will be Chelsea's highest scoring player?
Probably not, depending on Cole Palmer's fitness and what he is able to do. Caicedo's had obviously 3 goals at the start of the season. He's probably not going to score again. I see the point. Like, we don't know from Palace defenders. Grealish and Ndiaye is a flip of a coin at the moment. What's your poison? Take it. Even Gravenberch at Liverpool, highest point scorer.
But the reason I've not even highlighted Salah here, and Salah's on 34 points, his second highest scoring Liverpool player. You can obviously all agree Salah will score more than Gravenberch. But once we hit into the second half of the season, I don't think we can say that Salah will definitely be Liverpool's talisman.
Salah could miss 5 games this season.
No, but it might be Isak anyway.
Yeah, true. Gakpo's only 1 point behind and is 5-6 million cheaper. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so talisman in terms of we know for sure. I think Jadon Anthony at Burnley, you could say, based on the start of the season, he really is involved.
Yeah,
his goal involvement's a joke.
Jadon Anthony has scored 4 times this season. You're going to
and
see in the
assists as
second.
well.
Yeah, you're going to see Naseki's one of the biggest overperformers so far this season. And despite those 4 goals so far this season, Josh Cullen's only 4 points behind him.
Yep. Yep.
So
It's Josh.
if Anthony's goals dry up, he doesn't look like Cullen's DEFCONs will dry up, right? So if Anthony stops getting attacking returns, Cullen and Florentino are going to start eating into that. And that's one where I could say, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if one of those two central midfielders at Burnley was their highest scoring player at the end of the season.
0.7 cheaper Cullen than Anthony. Yeah.
So talismen are so thin on the ground. What this also highlights is there's kind of a thin colour for all these players in terms of the position they play in. So from the top 3 scoring players from each team so far this season, there are only 6 FPL forwards. 6.
Yep.
Those are Haaland, Bowen, Thiago we've mentioned. The others are João Pedro, Chelsea.
Yep.
It's fine, but he hasn't had a shot for about a month.
Yep.
Lyle Foster at Burnley, who's only got 21 bloody points. And Chris Wood of Nottingham Forest, who's Forest joint top scorer, has only got 24. So you can understand, looking at this, why I'm seeing, I'm going to go 5-4-1 or I'm going to go 4-5-1 and stuff. Yeah, particularly if the one's Haaland, like I completely understand it. But I say what I say every year, that template will move.
Yeah.
And there's too many good forwards in this league to not think that will catch back up. I mean, for example, you could look at Tottenham as an example at the moment and say, well, Kudus looks like he's going to be the man. But in the longer term, I don't know if Solanke or Mawani is going to become the 9 and they might become really interesting further down the line. They're obviously not at the moment, right? So knowing the talisman from so many teams feels really, really tough at this moment. It's complicated and the forwards just aren't doing it.
Yep. Yeah, similar names keep popping up on this list. I'm looking at thinking, yeah. Like
I do think
Gabriel,
it will change.
Gay, yeah. In what way?
Well, I could definitely foresee me potentially in like 5 weeks' time wildcarding with like Haaland and Isak and Thiago as like a front 3.
Okay.
So that's a kind of the caution out there to those who are thinking going like 5-4-1 at the moment. I think it might flip up in a few weeks' time. These attackers have got to start doing better. The direct football is not a consequence to forwards not doing so well in FPL at the moment. I think there's too many things like Tottenham have not had consistency with like no Solanke, right? As an example. There are others like that as well. I mean, let's take you to this next table, over and underperformers, right?
Yeah, let's have a look.
Mateta, depending on your persuasion in terms of whether you think he's been shit or unlucky, he's underperforming by 2.1 goals. The haul is due.
Yep.
Go and get him in game week 10. It's probably not now. There's a few things, and again, this is really small sample size, so just the 7 games, but I just wanted to look at XG over and under performance for some select players in the league. And a few striking things here. Manchester United, Bumo, Cunha, Fernandez, and Amad Diallo, actually the most of the lot.
Wow.
All underperforming against their XG. If you actually combine it, it's about 6 underperformance on goals for across the 4 of them.
Well, Bruno Fernandes obviously got 2 missed penalties in there.
So if Bruno had scored his 2
chunk.
penalties, he'd be running pretty much to where he should be. He'd actually be slightly overperforming.
Yeah. But the others, I mean, Bumo's only got 1 goal this season. Cunha and Ahmed have got none. So you can see that. So they're creating chances.
Another big underperformers, Beto. It's 1.5 under. Anthony Gordon hasn't scored in about a year, I think. Is an underperformer. Jeremy Pino, underlying data looks quite good from Palace so far. Hasn't scored yet. Similar with Eze. At Arsenal, I presume that obviously factors in obviously his opening game, just the 1 game, wasn't it, for Crystal Palace at Chelsea. Vert is obviously under, having not scored yet. Those overperformers, biggest overperformer in the league is Moises Caicedo, 2.5 overperformance. The thing with Caicedo is ultimately he scored a goal from a corner that a goalkeeper's dropped. That's fine, but he's not a player that we associate scoring from corners. And he's obviously scored 2 worldy long distance goals.
Yep.
Fair games for him. Semenyo, unsurprisingly, for a player who scored 6 goals so far this season, is well overperforming.
Yeah. But he's still got a very high XG. Like the only players in the table that are above him Mateta that we mentioned, Bruno Fernandes with 2 penalties, and
So
Erling
what
Haaland. That's ridiculous.
what do we read of these players that we highlighted as talisman just on the last graphic? Semenyo, Bowen, Haaland, Thiago, all outperforming the data so far this season. And so too, you'd mentioned Jaden Anthony.
Yeah, he's well up.
They're five of the biggest overperformers so far this season. Now, Haaland, usual context, right? He scored 9 goals from an XG of 7.7. The XG of 7.7, you only have to look at the other players on this table to realize how obscene that is. And,
Yeah, it's
and obviously,
bonkers.
he's Haaland, so he's well
Yeah.
capable of outperforming his data. Just another hat trick for Norway at the weekend, by the way. He is what he is, isn't he?
What a guy. Yeah, seeing that Bruno Fernandes stat makes me think, yeah, just gotta be patient with him. Jared Bowen going to be patient with, even though he's outperformed at West Ham, been awful this season so far. So, your question is what you're saying, James, is these talismen.
Do talisman outperform naturally?
Yeah, because there's always going to
That
be.
can't be right, can it?
I don't know. It's an interesting. I think they have been overperforming. More importantly, will they continue to overperform, or will it drop off?
Well, I think Jared Bowen is someone who normally does. We always say this about Vardy every year, don't we? Like Vardy always outperforms his XG and stuff, right?
Yeah, I think there will be certain players that will continue to. I'm also interested in the ones that are underperforming. Will that right itself? Mateta, Fernandes.
Well, you know who was one of the biggest overperformers, weren't it, last year was Bumo.
Yep.
And we compared him to, is Semenyo like this year's Bumo, right? Or trending that way so far.
Yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't be put off by investing in the talisman players here that are overperforming. So Haaland, Thiago, I don't think the timing is right, but I think it's going to come around again. Anthony, Bowen, Semenyo, if you want to invest in them, fine. Voltemade as well.
Yep.
Voltemade versus Gordon is a conversation for last Wednesday's Clash of the Correspondents. If you want to catch up with that with Sam and Si on Brighton Newcastle. Before we finish, in terms of looking at some data, I know a few of you are on Wildcard now. So this is my ticker, next 5 fixtures, of which Chelsea sit top, then Leeds, then West Ham, then Arsenal, and then Brighton and Crystal Palace. I said it gets much better from game week 10. Decent couple for Wolves, and Newcastle, I think, have a fairly decent run as well. Who's on radar for you generally at the moment, Suj?
Arsenal, particularly.
Yeah.
I want to add another defensive asset, whether it be Raya in goal. But Matt Sells is thinking the place up, so I feel like that's a problem that I kind of want to fix. Senesi, but I think the Senesi pick is very much a shield pick, covering things off. His ownership is only going to grow, and he's consistent. So from Porro to Senesi is on the radar. Like, you're at Tottenham at bottom of the ticker for you for the next 5. So I'm going to keep Porro for the home game against Villa, but I may move him potentially on. So those two are on radar at the moment. I'm happy with my front line, which is Haaland, Gyökeres, and Bowen. I don't see myself moving off them. And I'm fairly happy with my midfield as well at the moment. Reinders is a bit frustrating, but every time I think about Reinders, I always have to remember his price. Like, where am I going to go? What, Jaden Anthony or a Caicedo? I don't think it's worth it, particularly because their fixture turn coming further down is a lot better. So, yeah, it's defensively at the moment, and it is Senesi, maybe David Raya, and based on our conversation today, Trevor Chalobah's put his hat in the ring, I think, as well.
Yeah, I can go constant Chalobah one move.
Tempting. I would say tempting. Forest away. Angers Forest.
That means
Sunderland.
benching Wan-Bissaka instead.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. We're playing Brentford at home. Thiago's on fire at the moment.
Possibly blocks me off other moves. There's a chance I roll this week, actually. But yeah, players under consideration. Chalobah, Enzo Fernandez, who he's not going to play for Argentina this week. He's been sent home with a bit of inflammation of the knee. We do think that it was kind of agreed that he wasn't going to play for Argentina anyway. So don't know if this knee report is a blag from Argentina's side or if it's legit.
Okay.
You probably got to wait till Friday. Deadline is Saturday. But yeah, Fernandez to Fernandez is a possibility for me, Suj, this week to open up the game. Uh,
Bruno to Elliot. No, sorry, Bruno
Enzo.
Fernandez to Enzo. Yeah.
Elliot Fernandez, yeah, that
I was thinking
famous.
Anderson. I don't know why I was thinking Anderson to Anderson of Joachim to Elliot, but no.
Looking
Bruno
forward,
to
looking forward to seeing
Enzo.
the Enzo Anderson love child at Planet FPL podcast near you soon. Pacatar, Somerville, cheeky little consideration. I like the idea of Somerville as an under the radar differential, knowing that I can wildcard away from it in a few weeks.
The
And
second thing you said there, James, is the most important thing. Knowing that you can wildcard away from it in a
yeah,
few
yeah,
weeks. Because if it stinks up your team, you're going to get frustrated by
yeah,
12, 13.
absolutely that. Arsenal players, obviously, as well. Saliba, Timber, Calafiori, Rice. I can't go Fernandez to Saka in one move. I could go Gakpo to Enzo Fernandez and Bruno Fernandez to Saka for -4. I don't think it's worth it.
Okay.
Don't like the idea of selling Saka with a Gakpo over home fixture at all, personally. Those are upcoming fixtures. If you're wildcarding this week, good luck. Me and David will do some drafts on the weekend or on Friday for that as well. And I just want to show you this. This is the ticker game. It's 13 to 17. We know there's a lot of people, and I think it probably includes me and you, Serge, planning to
Yep.
go here at this point.
Yeah, 12 or 13, one or the other.
The dislike on 12 is Chelsea and Arsenal still have good fixtures in 12, and Newcastle and Manchester City play each other.
Yeah, agreed.
That's the
Yeah,
real
13
dislike on 12.
is more likely, yeah.
And for me at the moment, if the real appeal on 12 is that's the start of Liverpool's run.
You can go early
Forest
on
at home.
Liverpool.
Well, if I end up carrying Van Dijk and Gakpo, there would be no reason for me, pretty much personally. So Man City, Liverpool, the fact that those two just sit top the ticker from 13 to 17 is great. Then United's Manchester and Newcastle, Bournemouth show up well. Brighton, Fulham have a tricky kind of 13-14, then a really nice run. I did a remodel of my FDR over the last week or so, so it's two teams shot much better for the Christmas period. One is Fulham and the other is Everton. Everton is a direct consequence of the fact that they play Nottingham Forest in game weeks 15 and 19. Their actual run here from 13 is not particularly good, but they look really nice from roundabouts game week 18 again, Everton. And Fulham's looks really nice from about game week 16. Arsenal have some good fixtures joined in with some tougher away games. Chelsea, Villa, Everton away, Brentford, Wolves at home. I do think, as I said a few weeks ago on the Chip Talk pod, I do think game week 14 is absolutely disgusting for potential rotation. I think almost certainly for Chelsea, and I also think highly likely for Arsenal and Liverpool as well. So that's I just wanted to show that for those who are on wildcard now, just to factor in what the 13 crowd might be looking at in terms of some differences to yourselves. Jared Bowen, I've stuck with all the way through here. So now going for a good run. He won't be sitting there in game week 13. I'm fairly certain of that. Even if he is one of the best talismen in the league, he'll be going. Won't be staying for them fixtures.
Yep. So Brighton are fifth between now and then and sixth thereafter, but their players just are spread out. I think it's Minter or Minter
yeah.
Van Heck maybe.
I think because particularly as well, this is always the thing when you're looking at fixture difficulty, and this is why on my upcoming difficulty on the planner, you can break it down for certain weeks like this. If you look, for example, like game week 10 to 14, Brighton, Palace and Fulham look great. So Fulham, then you're looking at those Wolves, Everton, Sunderland fixtures 10 to 12, and then Brighton and Palace carry a bit better as well. So if you were looking at game week 10, Brighton and Palace would sit towards the top of that ticker, for example. So it's really important in terms of your timing. I've got rolling difficulty running up till the other side, walking into the second wild card now and stuff.
Cool.
It will still be 13 for me, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, I think I'm with you with that as well. I just need to think about where my free hit slots into the equation.
Oh, you still got that bad boy, ain't you?
That's a single game week chip anyway. It's a little bit more. You need to get lucky with the pick, so don't need to force that.
I wonder
cool.
if game week 17 might be one for you,
For free hit.
Just looking at fixtures there, like City at home to West Ham, Bournemouth at home to Burnley. I think like the Bournemouth at home to Burnley, Brighton at home to Sunderland, Fulham at home to
But I'll have
Forest.
wildcarded into City I mean, I already own two City, and I don't see myself selling Reinders as it stands at the moment. Maybe Reinders to Gakpo right now. Maybe doesn't appeal.
Don't
I'll have to have a think about it.
don't waste it, Suj. Well done,
Yeah.
mate. Do you want to do some questions before we finish?
Tell the listeners what they got to look forward to for the rest of the week, maybe
Ah, a sham.
first, before we get into it, and then we can pull out some of the questions that we've had.
People's Poll Podcast, making a return tomorrow. Myself and David covering one of three topics for you. We're going to potentially look into 10 years on from Leicester City, if anyone can ever do it again. Perhaps not quite to the same dramatic extent, but we kind of close shop in terms of teams that can win the title, or can something to change again in the future? Can a Palace or a Bournemouth ever hope to achieve what Leicester achieved? Do formats need changing for international qualifying for tournaments? I think many of us who support the so-called major nations are pretty bored of it. Should we accept VAR will never be perfect is a follow-on from an interesting interview that I recommend people look at, that Dan Rowan of the BBC did with Anthony Taylor last week. And a shout out to the Chelsea fans, by the way. I saw you won another game with your lucky ref, Anthony Taylor, against Liverpool. Chelsea fans have had it in for Anthony Taylor for I don't know how many years, but every time he refs them, they win. Wednesday, Ask James scheduled for 12 p.m. UK time. Clash of Correspondence Thursday is Nottingham Forest versus Chelsea with Mark Southerns and Gary Mansell. We're gonna record that on Wednesday night, and I hope Forest have made an Ange decision by then or not. There were lots of Sean Dyche links over the weekend, Suj,
I've
to
seen.
the Forest job.
I've seen.
David and I will do the weekender on Friday, which will include some wildcard drafts for those on it this week, and we'll have a look at some free hit teams as well, in case you want to consider it, Suj. On Patreon, we've got Q&A today. Tomorrow, Jack Blackbird, one of our patrons, hosting a quiz for me. We've got Tottenham Money in Football, Game Week 8 preview on Friday. Advanced tier content includes Nico's Corner. I'm going to have a focus on Go Ahead Eagles, who are playing Crystal Palace in Europa Conference League next week. I'm also going to pick an all-time Monaco 11 ahead of my trip to Monte Carlo next week. We've got Team News Stream on Friday and a midweek dilemma on Wednesday. I'm actually, for the first time, going to have a look at a Wildcard 13 draft on that. If you want to support the show, it's www.patreon.com/planetfpl.
Indeed, where we do all the additional shows. You get access to our Slack community, which is loads of engaged fantasy managers across all different formats of the games, fans of different clubs, loads of different channels that you can chat and ask questions about, Matchday Live, all that kind of thing. The prize leagues that you get, and all of the graphics that you're seeing are on James's fixture planning spreadsheet that you get access to from basic tier and above. As part of the Slack community, so you can have your own copy of it. James updates it on a regular basis
And edit it.
cup
like
draws.
it.
Yeah, exactly. As cup draws happen and things like that, that gets updated on a very, very regular basis. You may find that even the £3 or so a month that the basic tier is worth it just for that. So we'd love to have you over in
ads. Just to get rid of the ads at basic tier, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
Bloody ads. Sick of these ads. Right, give me £3 a month and fucking get rid of them.
Yep. Right, let's do some questions then, James. We've talked about template a little bit. Ryan Smith says the template right now has got Semenyo, Senesi, Grealish, and Dye, Gabriel, Haaland, regular players we've all talked about. There's a few
That's
more.
got to be one of Grealish or Dye. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Who do you, we put a slash. Who do you think will become the template by game week 12 and why? For clarification, who do you think will be the star picks game week 8 to 12? Looking at your fixture ticket, James, you'd think maybe Chelsea. So I think Shalabar got good potential within that time period. West Ham, maybe Bowen. I still think Gyökeres. There's a Burnley and a Sunderland game in there. I think he'll do particularly well.
Someone like Bowen, I think you're now, like if I was on Wildcard, I'd be going him.
Yep.
I'd be going him and I'd be looking to move him on to something else, maybe in game week 12. If you're going now as you're buying, I think you're doing it now, aren't you? I think if you let it go this week, you just let it go, I think, basically. And that's fine if that's the choice. So I don't think Bowen will become part of a template. I think someone like an Enzo Fernandez could do really well over this period and become it. But I think by the end of this, I think Chelsea go into difficult fixtures. I think probably the change will be, I think the biggest one, I think will be double Arsenal defence. I think it will become a shit. We need to have this to get positive gain out of it. And I think a few forwards by the time we hit game week 12 might step up. So I think Mateta will probably be one. I think Yankuba Minta might be a player that becomes really interesting from Brighton. But otherwise, I don't think it will change too much because this is like a block. And then as we've shown you, it kind of then really changes again. So I think the biggest one will be like double Arsenal defence. I think Palace players will become like hot property as well. And someone like Minter might become really interesting.
The expected 11 talks about template teams forming faster because of the prediction models and AI and what have you. The truth be told, I don't really look at them, so I don't know what they are suggesting the transfers that people make now are. But let's assume it drives towards a template. Do you think the new competitive edge is psychological rather than analytical? Timing, emotion, risk appetite, that kind of thing?
Yeah, everyone's different. Listen, these tools are obviously really good and they're only going to get more advanced and better, improve like year on year. And I'm sure more and more people are going to use them year on year. So I think Luke Williams kind of said it best previously. It was like, it's no point fighting against it. You either kind of adopt it and get on board with what's happening because the data's really good and the models are impressive, or you just be like me and accept that you're going to go against it essentially.
Yep.
And play it your way. And that's not you can do both, by the way, by playing it your way and using models. So it probably depends on the human nature. I'm like you in the sense that I'm not using them, but I've been saying this on a few streams recently. I've not had time really to like listen to any other content from anyone else this season. So I don't know what people are saying their picks are, etc., unless I happen to scroll through something on Twitter, basically.
Yep.
So I think one of the things I've done really well this year is I've kind of removed price changes from the thinking this year.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm getting hit for team value, but I think that subconsciously is helping the process of decision making.
JR, what's your opinion on picking DEFCON defenders for the harder games away to the likes of City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool over better clean sheet possibilities? I feel like I've left a lot of points on the table looking for the clean sheet over the DEFCON. The only thing I would say is the DEFCON's 2 points. You can see 2 goals. One of them's gone. So you're now at 1 point. Like these good teams at home definitely have the possibility of scoring 2 or more goals. So and then your DEFCON's only half.
Let's take an example, right? James Tarkowski goes to City this weekend. Okay. Last season, James Tarkowski could have scored and Everton won 1-0 at Man City and he walked away with a 15-pointer. This year, he could do that and walk away with a 17-pointer. Is that much of a difference? Or is it that, oh, well, last year he might have only got 2 points and this year he'll get 4? Is that enough of a difference? For me, the answer to that is like on a fixture like that, it's a no.
Yeah.
It's a not. The risk was still there last year. I could leave a powerful player like that who, although admittedly, as Sean said, his attacking record actually isn't that great, but could return an attacking return and haul. We've all been there. We've all experienced that thing. There's those 2 points making a massive difference. Or would I look at it and this week and go, well, actually, I probably would project Tarkowski at maybe 3.5 points this weekend rather than 1.5 points this weekend. But if I've got another player and I legit think that they could go off, that player's getting picked. Yep. So like, would I pick, truthfully, I would pick Rodon over Tarkowski, for example, this weekend. As an example, Rodon is probably unlikely for DEFCONs, isn't a huge attacking threat. I know he hit against the post against Tottenham. It's not a huge attacking threat. Is there more of a chance of an upside return though? For me, it's with Rodon rather than say Tarkowski this week. Now the following week, that might be a completely different answer. So it's not like a one size for everything, but that's how I would view it this week. I personally would not be playing James Tarkowski away to Manchester City. That would be my view, and DEFCON doesn't change that.
Yep, cool. Last but not least, let's give a question to late riser of the FPL Wire. Always give them check out
Plug
if you
them
haven't ever
guys because
listened.
they produce
listened.
amazing content.
They do. Praz and I like that they're very cerebral. They think about things in a very interesting way, which is different to you and me who just blag it. Bowen and Bowen and West Ham is playing on my mind. What is the actual quality of the squad in your opinion? And given the fixtures, is Bowen a pick? How do you compare him?
What does he mean? The quality of the West Ham squad?
Yeah.
That's for you, boss.
How do you compare? No, well, the question's not finished yet. How do you compare him to Voltemade or Mateta? And he's also generally interested in what you'll think of Paqueta. And we spoke about Paqueta earlier. For his price, he's like a mini Bruno because he can do a bit of everything. He's got pens. He can pick up a DEFCON. He's good for assists, odd set pieces as well. So Paqueta's fine at his price, below 6 million. Just think of him as a mini Bruno. But what about Bowen with the fixtures coming up versus Voltemade and Mateta? Mateta, we've already established, is crazily underperforming his XG. Newcastle are pretty good from now. If it's just that one Man City fixture, but it is at home, the Manchester City fixture, right? So if you had a Voltemade in that game, you'd probably play him anyway. So I think Voltemade and Mateta are competitive to Bowen.
Yeah, I think I don't actually have it's strange because during the Champions League and still in the Carabao Cup, they've got a lot of home fixtures, Newcastle, between now and circa like December. I did them risk fixtures coming up. I don't really have Newcastle on particularly any of these as like higher
rotation risks. Yep.
Nah, it's just the way their fixtures land is pretty good, certainly over this next period. And the quality of their opponents is impacted. So I think largely they should be all right for minutes, the likes of Voltemade and Gordon. The problem with that one is I don't think we know who with them. Whereas with West Ham, like I'm definitely paying the extra for Bowen versus Paquetá. If I want to have Paquetá as a different choice, that's fine. It's not like I have to have Bowen with him. But if you're giving me that choice, it's like, yeah, I'm paying the extra for Bowen. Yep. Voltemade, Gordon, I don't think we can be sure yet. There's the Visa impact of this, which isn't a now, but is a longer term. And the panel mentioned Mateta as another. Did he say Mateta?
Yeah, Mateta.
Yeah, so I think what I would do personally is I would go Bowen now because I think he's on Wildcard, Prano. I think I would go Bowen now. And if in 2 weeks you feel really uncomfortable about that choice, that's a move to Mateta in game week 10.
Cool.
And that's the way I'd look at it. And then come back and have a look for Newcastle later on, personally. I think as a cluster, their fixtures are quite good.
Yeah.
But none of Brighton away, Fulham at home, West Ham away under Nuno, or Brentford away, none of them scream great at me. I think as a cluster, good run of fixtures. When I break them down individually, do any of them scream at me and say, that's a great fixture? No.
Okay, cool. We'll call it time there on this episode of Planet FPL. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button wherever you are listening to the audio. If you're on YouTube, hit the notification bell. You'll get notified as soon as any of the other additional content goes live. And we'll be back at you tomorrow with the People's Poll. Stay safe. Look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Smash a like. Hit the sub button. Cue music, please, man. Sharp.